I am fat. Fat! If you watch a few of my other videos, you know mental health is not something I stray from talking away about, mostly because I want to help get rid of the stigma that's something that shouldn't be talked about. So I'm very open and honest about my mental health journey and where I am at the moment. And I have been kind of struggling lately. I'm going to be leaving home soon. I'm going to be moving to a different state, and while I'm excited, it's definitely been difficult to come to terms with. One of the things that I've always struggled with, especially with my mental health, is my weight. I kind of got shit genes in that I am just always naturally bigger, and if I am not constantly doing something to, get rid of that extra weight, I am just going to be fat. It's just the way it is. And combining that with constant mental health struggles and a diagnosed mental illness, it definitely gets hard to have the motivation to go out to the gym like 5 times a week, especially when I'm already working a full-time job. It's very difficult. I'm not here to talk about my real struggles with weight, though. Although, any suggestions, throw them down in the comments, because I am a piece of shit. I am so fat, you could see me from the International Space Station. That is how large and grotesque I am. But I've come to terms with the fact that I'm just a bigger guy and my weight will fluctuate all the time. It's just a thing that happens, and it's been happening ever since I was a kid. What are you gonna do? All that to say, I used to really struggle with body image issues, especially in high school. And that's what brings me to the topic of this video. You read the title right. In high school, I watched an American Dad episode that saved my life. I know what you're thinking. That's not true. What American Dad episode could you have seen and gone, I need to change my ways in a positive way? The American Dad After School Special. That's the title of the episode. That's not just a thing I did. A little background here. I've always been a fan of Seth MacFarlane's shows. Family Guy lately can get fucked, but the early seasons I was a huge fan of. American Dad is a show I watched a lot, mostly because my ritual for going to sleep during middle and high school was to watch Cartoon Network and spray in some YouTube after I get out of school, and then I go to sleep to the Adult Swim lineup, which meant I would usually watch King of the Hill, American Dad, and Family Guy, and then go to sleep to either the Cleveland Show or Robot Chicken. It was one of those two, and I really loved those shows. Family Guy I will always have a strange attachment to because of just how often I've watched it, and American Dad is one of my favorite comfort shows because it's a show that, while it definitely has a few bad episodes, it's never had a decline in quality like Family Guy has. But those first few seasons of American Dad are very special to me because they tackle some really interesting topics in a way that helped little child me understand them in a good way. If you haven't watched American Dad before, it is about a conservative father working for the CIA with his ditzy blonde wife, his nerd of a son, his hippie liberal daughter, and an alien, and a talking fish. It makes sense if you watch the show. And in the episode, I'm referring to the son, Steve, falls in love with a overweight girl. And Stan forbids it because he's an asshole. And in his panic, the family reminds him that he's not so much of a skinny guy himself, to which he starts overworking out like crazy. He meets this crazy fitness instructor who keeps telling him to be better and saying that his family is sabotaging him. And we see that no matter how much he works out and no matter how much he eats right, he keeps getting fatter and fatter. And it leads up to this reveal when the family has a sort of intervention with him that we realize he's been anorexic the entire time, and the weight that he's been gaining has all been a figment of his imagination. That's the basic plot of the episode. I would suggest to go watch it because it is just a funny episode. I think it's the best episode they ever wrote. And it's very heartwarming the way that they treat anorexia and its consequences, not just on the person suffering with it, but on the family and the people that care about that person. How does this tie into me? How does this random ass American Dad episode I probably caught at 3 a.m. really affect me? Well, for that, we have to go back to when I was about 16 years old. When I was 16, I was in a very bad relationship. I was with a woman who, for as much as she said she loved me, she hated me. She would treat me like dog shit, and she would constantly belittle me at every chance she got. And one thing that made her unique to any other evil ex you might hear about is she was vegan. So obviously that should have been red flag from the start. She was a vegan, and while at first that didn't really do anything to our relationship, I said, that's cool. I'm a meat eater. We live our separate lives. But as the relationship went on, she definitely got more forceful over that I should be a vegan too. And I tried for her because at the time I did really love her. But that wasn't working, so I went back to meat eating, and she would make me feel like shit every time I did it. At this time, I was definitely living with undiagnosed bipolar disorder. Mix that with general anxiety. I'm just a mess that entire time. Ask any of my friends around that time. I was fucking miserable just all the time dealing with this woman. And it got to the point where I felt guilty eating anything. Not just for her constantly bearing down on me saying I'm an evil person for eating animal products, but also for feeling ugly all the time. That one wasn't just on her. She helped, but I had always struggled with self-image. I always had trouble making friends and had trouble, especially in romantic departments. So I was just never good at seeing myself as a person worth something. So every time I looked in the mirror, it was a jump scare because I really thought I was super ugly and fat and terrible and undeserving of everything, to the point where I purposely stopped eating anything. I would go days and weeks with getting by on a single cereal bar, and that's it for the entire day, and doing everything I could to get out of the house to try and walk and run and just get all this weight off that really I didn't have much of at the time. I had a bit of a gut, but it wasn't bad. I was fucking 16. It couldn't have been that bad. But every time I looked in the mirror, I saw a fat piece of shit who didn't deserve anything, so I just didn't eat. And then when you combine that with a bunch of people saying, oh my god, you look great, after I already started this cycle, it didn't go well. So that's the scene right there. I am a troubled 16-year-old, undiagnosed bipolar, incredibly anxious with an abusive, terrible girlfriend and an eating disorder. I have many thoughts about doing terrible things to myself that, thank God, I never went through with, and I was just at a loss. It was at this time also that I took a home ec class. It wasn't called home ec though. Weird tangent. For some reason, my school considered the term home ec as not politically correct, so they called it something completely different. But everyone kept calling it home ec. What? I think it was called family consumer sciences or something like that. It was a home ec class. We baked shit. We cooked shit. We learned about babies and how I had a baby doll. She was black. Not important. Anyway. In that home ec class, we had a day where we watched a documentary about eating disorders, and I remember thinking, oh man, I can learn something about this thing I'm probably going through. And it was very disheartening to see that the entire documentary was about women, and stated several times that this is a women's issue. Men don't really go through this, and that made me think, oh, I'm not going through anything then. I'm just a fat piece of shit. It was very, 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 very disheartening to watch that and have a bunch of people tell you that you're not going through something just because of your gender. Same thing happened when I called the domestic abuse hotline one time, by the way. Funny story, I called them and they said, this is for victims only, when they heard my voice, and hung up. I was really struggling for everything in my life. It was rough. I had no self-confidence. I had no self-image. I had a shitty relationship. I didn't have many friends. I was on the edge of doing something stupid. And then, one faithful night, I decided to complete my ritual for the night and watch an episode of American Dad. And the episode that I saw was the American Dad After School special. I remember watching it and thinking, haha, funny, fat people funny. But I also remember seeing Stan's struggle in the episode, and seeing him be so paranoid that everyone was really trying to get him to be fatter than he was, that he really was this horrible person for being overweight, and that he needed to do everything possible to stop eating. And I was like, oh my god, that's me. I think I definitely realized I had an eating disorder before this episode, but seeing it played out so well definitely helped in me being like, I have a problem and I need to do something to fix it. It's also funny because in the episode they kind of have a joke about how most people treat this as a women's issue because the family gets Stan into an anorexia like rehab center, and the the leader in group therapy just keeps acting like Stan is a woman, asking if he's been cut from cheerleading practice and when was the last time he ovulated. It's very funny, but it also calls upon how this is not a gendered issue, and while it may happen to women more, it happens to men just as much, which is why I hate when I see people with big followings like Billie Eilish say, men never get made fun of for how they look, and no one cares how a man looks. I went through 2 years of an eating disorder because no one cared. That's right, Billie Eilish is correct. Just no one cares how I look. The same woman who said, I hate when I see ugly guys with attractive women. She's awful. She's a terrible person. Another tangent, but why do we like Billie Eilish? She's like the most obvious industry plant ever. She's constantly queer baiting. She says shit like that. Why do we like her? Her music sucks too. I remember after completing the episode, I was just kind of sat on my bed, staring at the credits that were rolling by and thinking, I have a problem. And I remember the next day, I made an effort to eat something for breakfast for the first time in what felt like forever. I ate lunch at school. I did everything I could. I started forcing myself to eat even when I really didn't want to. When it disgusted me, I ate because I knew I had to. Eventually, I broke it off with that girlfriend because a lot of worse shit happened that I'm not going to get into here. I started going out more. I just felt better about myself. And it's gotten to the point now where I may have overcompensated in eating. It's definitely swung the other way where I'm definitely eating too much. But, you know, different topic, different time. But with my mental health being at a kind of at a crossroads right now, struggling with body image issues again, I rewatched the episode not too long ago, and I remembered how I felt when I first watched it, how seen I felt. Like, oh my god, I'm struggling through this. You know, I didn't do half the shit Stan does, but still. And it just, I don't know, it felt good to be seen in a light that didn't feel judgmental. Like, of course they were poking fun at the situation because it's a comedy show. Duh. But they did treat it with a sort of reverence that I felt respected, and it was nice. And looking back and watching the episode, I'm still of the opinion it's the best episode they've ever wrote. And I still get that weird feeling inside, like I was there. I was Stan Smith at one point. Never thought I'd say that. But it's one of the few times that I've had a mental health struggle and have felt represented in some way, or seen, or just vindicated in what I was feeling. Even today, when I talk about my past trauma with abusive relationships or being groomed, many people don't take me seriously, or like try and pass it off as something that wasn't really that traumatic just because I am a man, and it gets disheartening, very much so. So being at a young age, going through what I was going through, being told it is a woman's issue and I'm basically not allowed to have this issue, and then seeing this silly little piece of animation represent exactly what I was going through, it was nice. It was just very nice. I don't know. I've had this on my mind for a while. I want to talk about it. Probably overshared. That's fine. I've been doing that my entire life. But yes, I believe that's it for this topic. Sorry it's a bit of a heavy one, but you know, it is what it is. I should have another video like right after this one because I have a couple recorded. We'll see though. We'll see how I feel on editing and stuff. But yeah, I think that's it for now. But don't let me forget, I need to thank my patrons. Yes, if you go in the link in the description or up here, it'll probably be, you can find out how to get your name read at the end of the credits like these lovely folk here. Thank you, Bunnet. Thank you, Danny Boy. Thank you, Schizo Brony 2012. And thank you, Wendigo Ranch. Your support means the world. It helps me keep making content like this. Thank you so much. Don't forget, my Discord is also in the link below. It's fun, I guess. I want to do more stuff on the Discord after I move, when I'm more settled in and have a nice pace of schedule. I want to do game nights and movie nights and stuff. I'll probably have a few of my mods help me set that up. But yeah, join in. It'll be fun. You can show off fan art or pieces of your own art or anything. You can ask me questions. I was going to say, never mind. But I think that's it for me. Thank you so much for watching this very personal video. That's all. Until next time, I've been That One Punk. Peace.